Hi everyone, I'm Adria Wu, and today I'll be showing you how to make a vegan chickpea bowl. Coming up, I'll show you this recipe in 3 parts. First, we'll start with making our dressing, then we'll prepare our vegetables, cook them off, and finally plate this wonderfully delicious bowl. I'll also go through some of the nutritional benefits and why we're using the ingredients we've chosen and why organic is so important. So let's go. So let me show you how to make the dressing. We have a bit of water here. We're going to use about 50 to 75 ml, about 100 ml of tahini. We have fresh ginger and fresh turmeric, a bit of salt and pepper to taste, and we're going to use about 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. Now, starting with our fresh turmeric and ginger, we love using organic whole ingredients as natural chefs. So you see I've even left the skin on. Now, turmeric's going to give it that kind of deep flavor and just a beautiful color into our dressing. Okay, and I also have my ginger, again, whole, organic, with the skin on, and with the ginger, it's gonna give it that little bit of heat. Okay, so that's about half a teaspoon of ginger and maybe just about a 1/4 teaspoon of grated turmeric. Next, we're gonna add our tahini. Now, tahini's made out of sesame seeds, and that's why this dressing is really nice with a bit of sesame oil. Feel free to use more sesame oil if you like sesame oil, but I find a teaspoon does quite a nice job in this dressing. Now, with this tahini, you can see it's a nice kind of dressing consistency. It's probably a tad bit thick, so I am gonna add a little splash of water just to thin that down a little bit. And again, it depends on the tahini you're using. This is a nice organic tahini. And some tahinis come a little bit thicker, some are a bit runnier, so you'll see once you start mixing it. And don't worry if it starts thickening up as a paste. When you first add the water, that's totally normal. It thickens before it thins out again, and this always happens when you're working with any kind of seed or nut butter. And you want to make sure we have enough dressing for 2 portions. Okay, you can see that's nice and pourable. That's the key. When you think about dressing, it should be pourable. Season with a bit of salt and pepper. The best part, do a little taste. I can really taste some of the turmeric coming through. There's a little hint of ginger. I taste the sesame. It's nicely seasoned with the salt, and that's all ready. Next, I'm going to smash my chickpeas. Now, when it comes to smashing your chickpeas, take a fork, and it's quite simple to do that. And when I smash my chickpeas, I like them kind of half smashed, not to a point where they're, completely broken down. So that's about 2 portions, 200 grams of chickpeas, and I'm gonna pour in about half my dressing. Okay, and give it a nice mix. Okay, and always taste along the way. So I'm going to taste this as well, just to make sure it's seasoned nicely with the salt and pepper. That is lovely. It does not need any more salt at all. So here's our dressing ready, as well as our smashed chickpeas. Next, we're going to work on preparing our vegetables and cooking them off. Let's go. We'll start off with our kale. We have 80 grams, 2 peppers. We have 200 grams of heritage tomatoes. You can see the different lovely colors we have here. We're gonna use about a tablespoon of either avocado oil, or you can use olive oil as well. And then we have our lovely garam masala mix, which I'll talk about in a second. So let's get our pan on first. So we're gonna get our pan to about a medium-high heat. So that's about 50 or 60% to the maximum heat. Add my tablespoon of avocado oil. And then I'm going to start preparing my kale first. Now look at this lovely organic produce. With the kale, a lot of times if it comes whole like this, which I think is great, it does have a slightly woodier stem bit, but no worries, we're going to cook that as well. The key to kind of cooking the stems is to make sure that you cut it nice and thin, and then you're going to cook that off first before anything else. So I've diced up my kale stems, making it much more easy to digest and much easier to eat. We're also going to give our kale a little bit of a massage. Again, this just helps make kale a bit more digestible. And you know it's ready when you can actually smell the kale itself. It starts releasing a lot of fragrance. Lovely. I'm going to cut it into bite sizes. Okay, and that's ready. We're going to set that aside. We're going to cook the kale last. We want to just give it a very, very light steam, a light cook right at the end. I'm going to get my kale stems in there. Okay, so while that's going, we're going to work on our peppers. Again, with these lovely organic peppers, you can eat pretty much every part. I wouldn't recommend eating the stem per se, but you can always save the seeds and the stem for like a soup or a broth. Okay, and we're gonna cut our peppers into bite sizes as well. All right, so I have my pepper cut into nice bite sizes. My kale's cooking quite nicely. Add my peppers in there as well. And then lastly, we're gonna prepare tomatoes, heritage tomatoes. So with the tomato eyes, there's nothing wrong with eating them. They're just a little bit fibrous and unpleasant. So, you know, sometimes if they're really small, like on a cherry tomato or a smaller heritage tomato, I just leave the eyes right in. Like this to me is absolutely fine, and I'm just gonna leave it in my vegetable mix. Now the reason I'm adding my tomatoes last in this veggie stir fry is because the water from the tomato is gonna actually help deglaze my pan. And that's where you're gonna get some really nice kind of flavors coming through from the caramelization that's on the bottom of the pan. We'll be able to scrape off some of those flavors. Right before I do that, I'm gonna give it a hit of spice. That's about 1 teaspoon of garam masala. Now garam masala is a mix of spices, so every chef is gonna tell you his or her garam masala is the best. It's a mix of things like coriander, cumin, a little bit of chili, turmeric. And so every garam masala literally means mixed spice is gonna be quite different. Okay, so I've given that another minute or two. You can see kind of the nice caramelization. We're gonna add our tomatoes. Again, some of that water is gonna help with, you can hear kind of that really loud sizzling. That means the deglazing is happening really nicely on the bottom of the pan. And we're gonna use a flat spatula just to kind of scrape off the bottom bits. You can see kind of the liquid. And that's where you get some really lovely deep flavors from the vegetables. Okay. Season with a bit of black pepper and then a pinch of flaked sea salt as well. That's nice. And finally we add our kale. We're just gonna let that kind of work through really quickly with a bit of steam. And you know the kale's ready when it turns from this a little bit, it's kind of like a little bit of a white, a little bit of an ashy green. It becomes this really vibrant green color, and that's when you know your kale's ready. So just wanna make sure all our kale is nice and vibrant green. And for those that are new to eating kale, you might wanna cook the kale a little bit longer, but surely over time you can kind of leave it a bit more on the raw side. That ensures you kind of leave more of the nutrition in the kale. Okay, my kale is nice and vibrant green. I'm happy with that. It's lightly cooked, just the way I like it. All right, that's great. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna turn that off. All right, so that's all cooked, and next we're gonna plate up our smashed chickpea bowl. Here is our vegan chickpea bowl. Now don't forget to subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all our upcoming recipes. Give this recipe a try, let us know how you get on, and I'll see you soon.